Welcome to the Beverly Taylor Sorensen Arts Learning Program video series. This series on classroom management has been specifically designed for you, the arts specialist. This series of videos provides an overview of fundamental strategies for success in the elementary arts classroom, which will improve your effectiveness and build your confidence as a teacher.
Now we're going to start to talk about expectations in the classroom. Expectations are simply teaching the children what it is that you need from them in a very clear and concise manner. We have both long-term and short-term expectations. Long-term expectations are things like class rules, things that will be established throughout the year and stay like that. Short-term expectations are things like quick direction, letting kids know exactly what it is that you need from them in that moment. The number one thing to think about with expectations, you have to teach them explicitly. You cannot just assume the children know anything that you're thinking. When that happens, you're going to have problems. So even if it's your classroom, someone else's classroom, the gym, outside, as a teacher, you can always let the kids know what it is that you expect from them. Moving targets are never fun. Moving targets are very difficult for children. I don't know if you've ever been given a task and it changes midstream, or you don't know what they're expecting from you. With children, it sends their behaviors off the chart and they start to act out. They will 9 times out of 10 want to reach your expectation if they know what it is. So you need to be clear as to what it is. You will be teaching your expectations from the very first day that you meet the students. You will need to go over and over and over again. You will feel like a broken record. You will be talking about everything, all the rules, all the things that you expect from them over and over and over again. If they don't get it, we stop. We practice, we review, and do again. So you're going to feel like you're hitting it over and over and over again. But if you take the time at the beginning of the school year, you're going to be cruising in the spring. I've had instances in my job as a specialist walking into someone else's room that is not mine. And I walk in and I notice there are rules that the teacher's already established posted in the room. And I will acknowledge to the students, boys and girls, I'm so glad to be with you today. We have so much to cover and I'm really excited. I see your teacher has some rules over here. Now if they're older, I might ask a few students to clarify what the rules are. This is simply letting everyone know I'm aware there are rules established and we will be following them, okay? So I will have them clarify and then I'll say, well, I'm here with you. I expect you to do these things for me. We have a job to do today, a lot of really fun things, but for example, when I want your attention, you're going to see me say, eyes on me by the count of 3. 2, 1, thank you. I might say, if you want my attention, I expect these things from you. So on the very get-go, you'll see that I'm acknowledging the rules that are already present, but I'm also being very clear as to what I expect them to do while they're with me. It's okay to establish those expectations. I referred to rules as long-term expectations. When you set your rules, make sure that they are observable and measurable. It is a common mistake that I see teachers post rules like, love others. Well, how do you define that? And I have a feeling that half of the kids, more than half of the kids in the classroom, have a definition of love that is probably different than a working definition that the teacher has. Or possibly, this is a really common one, try your best, do your best. And I always say to teachers, how do you know when their best is successful? How do you know if I'm doing my best? You don't. So make sure that your rules are observable and measurable. Some things may be treat our materials with respect or come prepared for class. Whenever you establish rules like that at the beginning of the school year, it's very important to be clear as to what they are. If you say, come prepared for class, what does that mean? If you say, treat our materials with respect, what does that mean? What does it look like? So make sure you're always very clear as to what your expectation is. Procedures are very important in your classroom setup. Procedures are rules that are specific to an activity. We don't always post all of the procedures. For example, sharpening your pencil. If you expect the kids to go over to the electric sharpener and do it themselves, you need to let them know that. But you don't post a picture on the wall saying, walk over to the sharpener, put your pencil in, hold it in there for 3.7 seconds and pull it out. So we don't always want to have our procedures posted for the simple things. However, you do need to post procedures if they are important enough that it's a routine that you want the students to get into, and once again, through practice, master at that procedure. For example, procedures might be lining up. Our line procedure, are coming into the classroom. If you're a dance teacher and you expect your students to walk in, remove their shoes, stack them in a certain area, and come over to a designated line, that procedure needs to be taught. Our English language learners and small children especially benefit from seeing visual cues or pictures along with the procedures. So, for example, once again with dance, if you have the students and you have a few steps they need to follow in doing these things, you might want to write down or display those steps so kids can follow in line. If there's something like a leap or a different dance move that might have a picture associated with it, put it next to that so they know exactly what it is that you're expecting from them. I often like to use procedure posters at the door as they leave, so that if I'm expecting them to line up, they know exactly what I expect. Is it facing forward? Do I have to have their hands folded, or is it okay to be at their side? Some teachers like them behind their back. It all depends on what you want, but you need to make sure the students know exactly what it is that you want. Another example of a procedure poster would be to display the steps to washing out your paintbrushes in a visual arts classroom. If you expect them to do it in a certain fashion, make sure that you have those steps listed along with pictures so they know what the expected behavior is. What we want to do is make sure that students have everything visually, auditorily in place to be successful with following the procedure or the expectation. If you have students with ADHD, it's very important when we're giving direction. One of the things that we want to do in a general classroom is not to have directions in more than 3. So in kindergarten, I've seen fabulous teachers forget this rule and say, okay, friends, when I say go, you're going to stand up, push your chair, and walk over to the desk, get your math book out, turn to page 27, and grab a red crayon and a yellow crayon. I timed it, and it took 14 minutes of instructional time for those students to be able to do those things. So what we want to do is give direction in lockstep form. Now, lockstep comes from a marching order where it's very clean and tight and there's no flexibility. Lockstep means you give a direction, they follow. You give another one, they follow. Until children get the routines down, you might want to follow this. As I was saying with ADHD kids, when we make a list or we give more than one direction, it's very important that they have a list to focus back on and make sure they can check it off as they go. When you need to get the attention of your students, it's very important that they know what that means. So you will need to teach them what it is that you're going to do to gain their attention. Please do not ask for their attention, not get it from them, and keep talking. If it's important enough to come out of your mouth, it's important enough for them to listen. So we will wait until they get it. Now, back to the different types. You can use the light switch, flickering on and off. It's a physical attention getter. There's auditory. Many people use this to quiet their kids. Okay, friends, we're on task. I like to count down, eyes on me in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Some people use and then the children respond with, okay. Some people like to say freeze, and they freeze. But if you say freeze and you still have kids doing this, stop. Get their attention before you move on. How are they going to get your attention? If you are in whole group, if you're in small group, if you're just walking around the room. All of these things need to be taught explicitly. When you're stating your short-term expectations, so things that you need them to do rather quickly, and you're telling them the expectation, make sure you have their attention and then give a direction and then allow them to go. So we don't want to say, boys and girls, go grab your instruments, and they all start moving, and then you're chasing after them trying to get another matter of business in. Okay, so think about what your expectation is. Boys and girls, when I say go. Boys and girls, when I clap my hands. Boys and girls, when you hear the chime, you will stand up, get your musical instruments, and return to the carpet. Ready? And then they go. So make sure that you're very clear what you need them to do without having them all go over at once. On a side note, after years of teaching, it never occurred to me, and I had a fabulous colleague share this little tip with me. Whenever you're in a whole group on the floor, things like that, so often we'll say, hey, red group, go ahead and go. Green group, go ahead and go. ABC group, go, go. And the kids are, stomping over each other to try and leave. I had a colleague once say, just have them stand up first. I'm like, oh. Boys and girls, everybody stand up. Green group, go. Red group, go. Makes it so much easier and nobody gets their finger stepped on.